Led by several black advocates who fought for the basic rights guaranteed their fellow citizens by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the civil rights movement staged nonviolent marches, sit-ins, and boycotts designed to raise public awareness. The litigation these leaders initiated brought the civil rights issue to a head in the 1950s and 1960s, but the first steps were taken in the early 1900s. One of the first civil rights leaders was Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, a political activist who campaigned for equality for black Americans. A highly educated scholar, he spent many years studying the lives and situations of African Americans and applying social science to problems of race relations.
The history of the American Negro is the history of this strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. W.E.B. Du Bois, 1903.
In 1905, Du Bois helped found the Niagara Movement, which worked to advocate civil justice and abolish discrimination. In 1909, he helped to found the National Organization for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, one of the nation's foremost organizations working for the rights of black Americans. 16 years after the NAACP was founded, A. Philip Randolph, a civil rights activist who worked for fair labor laws for black Americans, organized the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first real effort to form a labor union for black Americans. In 1947, Randolph formed the Committee Against Jim Crow in Military Service, later renamed the League for Nonviolent Civil Disobedience.
A community is democratic only when the humblest and weakest person can enjoy the highest civil, economic, and social rights that the biggest and most powerful possess. A. Philip Randolph.
The civil rights movement gained leaders as it grew. In 1942, James Farmer founded the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, the first civil rights organization to use nonviolent tactics to protest racial discrimination.
The students sat in, went to jail, came out, sat in again, marched, picketed, sat in again, and went to jail again. They simply would not stop. It meant to black people that segregation could be defeated. Segregation persisted only because we allowed it to persist. We obeyed segregation. We did not go to these stores that segregated the lunch counters and so forth. James Farmer.
Despite Farmer's tremendous influence, the civil rights movement had no greater leader than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. An eloquent speaker and a natural leader, King's ability to rally people behind his message of nonviolent resistance to bring about change put him at the forefront of the civil rights movement. King organized sit-ins in Montgomery, Birmingham, and Selma, Alabama, as well as St. Augustine, Florida, fighting for the right to vote, desegregation, fair hiring, and other basic civil rights for black Americans. In 1963, King and Randolph organized a march of 250,000 people on Washington, the largest civil rights demonstration in history and culmination of the civil rights movement. Standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial, King delivered his most memorable address. His I Have a Dream speech remains one of the most recognizable and powerful speeches in American history.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
After seeing many of the rights he fought for included in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, King was murdered in April of 1968 as he prepared to march on Memphis, Tennessee. A key successor to Dr. King was Fannie Lou Hamer. Born a Mississippi sharecropper, Hamer worked to give black Americans voting rights by organizing the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to challenge white domination of the Democratic Party. Her speech at the Democratic National Convention brought national attention to voting injustices directed at black Americans in the South. Deeply committed to improving life for poor minorities in her state, Hamer remained politically active her entire life, fighting tirelessly for the equality of all citizens.
Nobody's free until everybody's free. Fannie Lou Hamer.